Why you come and shoot down on a good vibe ready to flow?
Well, Tamas and Wahinas and Dahines and Usos, welcome from everywhere around the world to our podcast today.
Yes, exciting, eh?
It's
exciting. Yeah, excited. What do you think of this whole setup and everything?
I think it's amazing. I think it's an opportunity for us to help spread awareness to the topics that we're about to discuss, which are mainly culture and religion and church and whatever facet it may mean. And so it's exciting. It's very new for us. Polynesians in front of the mic. It is a crazy thing. We're usually back in the background doing fair hours and all of the background work, but
Keyboard
to be
warriors.
in front.
Keyboard warriors.
Oh, you had a keyboard growing up? But today we're coming to discuss and share our experiences. What do you think about this whole?
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. I think we're kind of stepping into a different, I guess, platform for both of us. Anyways, I think it's cool, offering a different perspective. Definitely not the only perspective, but as our perspective on cultural things, church related or religion, and just I guess life in general. I think we've lived long enough, to be able to sort of offer a different perspective. And I think just around our community and around the Polynesian community, I think we tend to be in this collective idea of being a group or a, I guess, collective community, right? But I think for us is being able to offer not just our voices, but a different perspective of how to sort of navigate church as well as cultural ways. Because, back in the days, us were just, it's passed down from generation to generation. But I think
not much say.
Not much say. But I think it's adjusting that to the modern society that we're living now. We're not in, in the 1800s, but we're in a different century now. So I think it's just offering our sort of perspective to that.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Well, that's what you have to look forward to in this podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
So there's actually three of us. It's meant to be three of us. So it's be me, Neil, but as well as one of our good mission friend, Ethan Key. So normally he's, we're kind of starting this off. It's kind of hard because we're here in Hawaii, but he's out in Brisbane, Australia. So I think for us is trying to navigate that through as well. How to sort of incorporate him into it as well, which brings us to the name, Bear.
Wow.
What is the name of this whole thing?
Well, our name is Third Watch. Now, the most obvious meaning of it, well, there's three of us here. We have Ethan Key, we have Great Pearl Lene, and we have myself. So there's three of us, and we're acting kind of like three big brothers coming to the conversation. We want you to feel comfortable. It's going to be good vibes. We love to laugh, as soon you will tell. But
why are you laughing?
He just said to look at the camera. That's how you know I'm not used to this. Hello.
Oh, my mate, he was just looking at a different angle of camera, but hey, you're looking at the wrong way, brother.
Bring it back to me. So that's the first meaning of Third Watch. The second one, it has a scriptural meaning. So this relates to the period of time in the day where people are most vulnerable, kind of the dark times, kind of after 12 a.m., coming towards 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. Most of us can experience that time. Usually it's when you're a bit more susceptible to the dangers of Satan. And it correlates to the time we are in now. We are in the Third Watch times, where there's a lot going on. There's wars and rumors of wars. There's a lot of contention out in the world. And so the result of our spreading awareness on the topics that we discuss will hopefully help benefit you, navigate you through these turbulent times as well. So Third Watch, think of it as three big brothers helping you have fun and find joy in these times,
Yeah, I think it kind of correlates with like deep and meaningful conversation. I think a lot of us kind of tend to sort of go to deep, meaningful conversation. So that sort of
malo meaningful.
But it kind of goes into like that sort of time of the evening, especially when we're vulnerable as well. So I think this is why we want to sort of, come up with the idea of podcasts, just to sort of help, offer a perspective. I'll definitely not be posting at 12 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. But
when you feel vulnerable, turn to this podcast.
yes,
Because when you see us, you're gonna not feel like you want to do anything bad.
yeah. But I guess I think we'll start with man. How do we first meet? How do we
Well, when you asked me on a date, well, we first met on the mission. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
We both served, as well as Ethan. We all served in the best mission in the world, Melbourne, Australia mission, back from 2021 to 23. And we all three of us, we weren't companions, but we lived together in the same flat for 5 months.
Yeah.
And you can tell by our big personalities that there was oftentimes we butted heads. But because of those experiences and these arguments, we ended up becoming really close. And after the mission, GP, he forced me to come to BYUH, and now I'm here doing a podcast with him and enjoying the fruits of its labors. And Key and I were companions, Ethan, and he decided to get married. And
good on him.
He's over there. Hopefully have some kids soon, brother.
Yeah, no, I think that's how we're able to first meet. I think we as Polynesians kind of knew the struggles, not just of the mission, but I think it's just coming from the similar background, kind of draws us together, I guess. But yeah, that's how we first met. For those who don't know, we're definitely members of the Church of Jesus Christ, and that's kind of, I don't know, I think it brought us closer because of church, but as well as because of our culture.
Well, we actually first met at FSY.
Well, I have never met him before, but he's saying that we met at FSY. Yeah, no, we were both youth at the time.
I was a youth, and he was a counselor.
No.
And now we're roommates. Look at that, eh?
No, roommates from the mission. So we were living together for how long was it again? 5 months. 5 months, and then now I sleep next to this guy every night, snoring away, and just
not too much,
away.
not too much.
Cool, man. But so where are you from though? Like, I know we've kind of spoken about it. For those that don't know, like, where are you from? Like, where do you call home?
Yeah. Okay, so I am from the beautiful island of New Zealand out there.
Oh, kia ora, kia ora.
So I was born there to both my parents that are straight from Tonga. Yeah. So I'm a full Tongan by blood, but I was raised in the diaspora of New Zealand.
Yeah.
I grew up in Hamilton, a little small town called Hamilton, where our temple is in New Zealand. I grew up there for the majority of my life. Then I obviously served my mission in Melbourne, Australia. I decided to move there afterwards and, find the love of my life there.
I'll just talk about where you're from.
Too much. But yeah, that's where I'm from. What about you? Where are you from?
I'm from, so I was born and raised in Samoa. Then I moved to,
some romantic spotlights on it. What's
happening here? So I was born and raised in Samoa, and then until the age of 15, I moved to New Zealand with my whole family. And then from New Zealand, I grew up there pretty much from my teen to about into my sort of early 20s, mid-20s. Really giving my age out. And then I moved to Australia, where I did a lot of growing up in Australia. I enjoyed Australia. Moved to Perth, Western Australia, and
party central.
Life really just took off from there. I enjoyed, I think for a Polynesian, always, leaving home at a later age, kind of, not only freedom, but as well as one of those ways of trying to grow up. So, but born and raised in Samoa. So definitely call home Australia, New Zealand, as well as Samoa. But when I introduce myself, I always say the last country that I lived in, only because
he's not proud of Samoa.
No, I'm proud of. I'm saying I'm of Samoa descent, but as well as born and raised in Samoa. But I live in Australia, so I think for me is being able to acknowledge all the places that I've lived in and contributed to who I am today. So so that's me, man. That's my background, and it's crazy. It's been I've lived in 4 different countries now. Samoa, New Zealand, Australia, now and Hawaii.
Wow.
And for you, it'd be 3, right? 3?
Yeah, 3. New Zealand, Australia, then now Hawaii.
Yeah, so it's cool. So we're currently students. We're currently studying at Hawaii. What's your major, brother?
My major is in accounting, and my minors are in international relations and creative writing.
Damn, we really had to think of that.
But I chose accounting for a specific reason. I feel that most of the Polynesian population, we're natural hard workers. Work ethic is always up there. And with this, in conjunction with this, we are also very entrepreneurial. We love to create ideas.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We want to do a food stall at an event, or we want to start our own little contracting business so we can go into jib fixing or painting, things like that. We're very entrepreneurial. But what has inhibited our growth is our lack of financial literacy. Of knowing things that can help benefit your business and teach you the skills to not only create a business, but stabilize and maintain one for the long run. So I've seen a lot of beautiful entrepreneurial ideas that have fallen flat.
Yeah.
And so why I chose accounting was to help counteract this failing of dreams, per se, by helping advise Polynesian communities on how they can stabilize and maintain their businesses. As well as to start one, and also how to manage their money and create habits. Because of the culture, there's certain habits that we do that are counterintuitive when we want to start a business.
Yeah.
But we can get into that later. It's a big conversation.
So the question on that, in terms of you spoke about culture and as well as how people are very creative and innovative, right? So do you think that a lot of our Polynesian people don't go into these kind of spaces because of how foreign these ideas are or systems, I guess, of filing tax? Because remember, we're from islands that don't even pay tax or anything. So do you think it's because of that it's foreign to our people that we don't go into these spaces?
Yes, I think, especially for those that move outside of the islands, it's a new concept to, go out there and start your business and put yourself in the forefront. Like I said before, we're more humble people. We like to work hard and let our hard work speak for us. But in the economy, in the workplace, you have to do more than let your work speak for you. That way, you kind of have to sell yourself. And it's a foreign concept for us. We really don't like that. We're very awkward in the front.
Yeah.
But what I want to advise people is how they can effectively still be humble, but still sell themselves so they can reap the benefits of networking, of opportunities that come when you tell your story. But I feel culturally, we also demean other people that are successful in life. You know what I mean? They say oh, look, that guy's rich. He's probably come off my muffa, bro. He wants to be all that big tough guy. Now he walks in a little bit taller in a suit. Yeah. But in essence, he's doing well for himself, and he's not pushing his success on anyone. It's just this idea that we have this concept in the islands. I don't know. Do you have any experiences with that yourself?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think seeing that a lot, especially just behind keyboard warriors on the comment section and everything. Just commenting on how people are succeeding in life, and but what I think we'll definitely get into that sort of topic more into it. I think it's something that it needs to kind of not discovered, but kind of talked about. Yeah. So I think there's not enough conversation just around that. So, yeah.
Thank you for cutting me off. Let's move on.
No, I didn't. No, not cutting you off, but it's just more of
I'm just kidding.
It's a more.
It needs more time.
Yeah, it needs more time. I think it needs its own episode, I guess. For me, even though did you ask me about what I studied? Oh, sweet.
What was your major?
So I have 2 majors.
Food.
I have 2 majors, so I study political science, but as well as Pacific studies, and then minoring in business management. So I think for me, why I wanted to sort of get into political science is because of how politics really helps or affects our life in a lot of ways. Really, I think it's more of giving up our rights, or not giving up our rights, but giving up our kind of our choices to people that we kind of trust to go into parliament that, in hopes for them to make the decision that would benefit us, me, but as well as a collective community. So that's why I wanted to get into politics. Not too much on the politics side of it right now, with everything that's going on in the world in terms of diplomacy, but I think I wanted to get into it so I can make a difference or make change to it. So, and then Pacific Studies, man, I kind of learned a lot more about Pacific in general, you know, since being at school.
You learn the specific Pacific.
No, I've learned like more about Pacific Islands.
Yeah.
A lot more, you know, since being at school. So it's pretty cool. My hope is to sort of help the islands, you know, through either not-for-profit organizations or I guess go through foreign relations with these islands to sort of push the agendas of helping through different issues that we're facing right now. So, yeah.
Well, I realize in essence that we kind of have similar future goals.
No, you're trying to help people how to, you know, steal money. Or how to, you know, avoid tax. But yeah, no, you're for it. Sorry.
But I feel like your non-for-profit organization will need an advisory or business sector.
Oh, so you're saying to hire you?
Yeah, because you probably don't know how to manage money, so I'll do it for you.
No, I do. I do.
Yeah, we know where it goes. Carrying on.
So having living in diaspora and being, you know, away from the islands, what are the different perspectives that you have on like church as well as culture?
Interesting question. Well, coming to the root of it, diaspora, you know, those of us that are born outside of our cultural island, we tend not to emphasize traditions and protocols as much as a person born in their country would.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's because of the language, which is a big thing. Like, I was born in New Zealand, and the main language there is English. New Zealand already has its own history with, you know, colonization and the uprising of the English language over the Māori indigenous language.
Mm-hmm.
But including me, I was kind of almost forced to learn English. You know,
Yeah.
a common saying, I don't know if it was in your household, but even in my household was like, mate, Tongan's going to get you nowhere. You know, English is the language of business, and you need to learn it to be more successful in your jobs and have more opportunities. And so that was kind of a difference in terms of culture. Obviously in Tonga, Tongan is the main language. We're still a monarchy. We're still very proud of our culture. And they would prioritize Tongan language, Tongan customs. But with Tongans inside a wider kind of more Eurocentric community, they value other things. Like, for example, like they always kind of compare us to the Palangi. Like, oh, look at the Palangi boy over there. He's smart, listen to his parents, got a good job. And that kind of societal pressure kind of shaped how I viewed my culture as well as its relation to church. What about you? Did you have anything like that?
I think for me, having to come from the islands to diaspora, I think we're kind of pushed to learn English, right? So, and not only because we didn't know English, right? We didn't need to learn or know our language because we already know how to speak Samoan.
Yeah.
But we were kind of pushed towards English because we're already living in a English-speaking country anyways, and it kind of helps us get everywhere. So I think for me, it was kind of different. It was foreign for me, I think, learning English. I didn't learn English until I was 15, so...
Well, we can tell.
But yeah, so I think for me, it was being able to sort of look at life differently as well. You know, not only from language perspective, but like just adjusting to a whole new country.
Well, then what were the kind of big shifts in your life? I don't need to. What are some of the big shifts that you saw? Not because of your unique experience, obviously being born in Samoa and then moving to New Zealand. Besides language, what are some big cultural shifts that you saw?
Yeah, I think the access to culture, in terms of when it comes to Samoan cultural things, right? So obviously back in the islands is a different perspective of different ways of doing it versus to New Zealand, Australia. And I think a lot of our young people don't have that access to that kind of stuff, the forefront of it. of being able to be there when things happen, for funeral, for whatever it would be. And I think over time we've kind of twisted the way culture should be. Culture should be simple. Culture should be, or tradition should be simple. It's not to sort of burden our families or people, but I think it sort of should help one another. I guess, work together as a family and move forward as a family. So I think for me that shift was there, and I've kind of seen myself over time kind of distance from culture and language through the lens of how much we have to give up for our culture. So, for example, right, in a Samoan culture, Whālawe love is one of those massive things, right? So instead of, having to give what I can, it's more of like, hey, now it's more of comparing ourselves with other people. Or that family gave 1,000, that family gave that much, right? So it's me sort of, I then started to distance myself because of that monetary, contribution towards our family.
So do you think distancing is a bad thing, or is it kind of both?
I think it's both. It's a bad thing because it really pushes away this generation, right? Or not be able to understand, and because sometimes their only connection to the aliens was through their parents, and because their parents grew up there, so for them they don't have that connection to either their families or to the land that they have back at home. Yeah. So for them, when they give up so much money, it's more of like, how do you even know who you guys are? Like, so in a way it is bad, but in a way it was good because you're then pushing back on some of the traditions or culture that our people have been living for such a long time. And it's the same cycle of things, right? We get into debt, because we're giving up so much of it. So I think for our people, we just need to, I guess, not change our culture, but find different alternatives to it, that we don't have to give up so much of ourselves, I guess.
I think also, like you said, culture is actually simple. And it might not be actually finding alternatives. It might just be understanding what the culture actually is.
Yeah, true.
Because sometimes when we, especially the diaspora, we don't actually know the root, the reasons why we give money, the reasons why we support family. And I think it's important for them to learn. And I can't remember who the professor was here in BYUH. He was talking about kava.
Oh, yeah, Funaki.
Yeah. And this idea doesn't just relate to kava, but he said, where there is no tala, there is no guidance. Tala meaning the stories behind it. And I think that's an important thing that the diaspora often don't hear. They only see the negative side. Like, for example, it's someone born in New Zealand, right, that's Samoan, would look at people like you that have come from Samoa and see you distancing yourself away from culture. And the idea will probably be like, oh, well, if they're distancing and they're from Samoa, then I don't want to be. And they start seeing like the dark side of it because we've twisted the meaning of culture. Yeah. So in essence, I would ask, for our viewers that are from the diaspora.
How many do we have?
Just mum. For our viewers from the diaspora, right, born outside of the islands, that have this kind of negative view towards culture and oftentimes delete that culture altogether, what would kind of be your advice to navigate this?
I think my advice would be on what you've just said. I think understanding culture, right? So I think, and the thing about culture as well is so interwoven to the point that it's hard to sort of unweave what's been woven. Oh, you like that one?
I said interwoven.
But I think it's unpacking all of that. I think it's not just a intergenerational thing, but it's because our language is not written simply in a constitutional way. It's just passed down from different generation, and perspective of diaspora and a perspective of someone from the islands is different already. So, and I think it comes down to, I guess, families' understanding of how family dynamics really help, but as well as being able to say, hey, as a family, we should contribute this much regardless of who it is, regardless whose funeral, whose birthday, wedding, whatever, that we should set a stand of culture, right? We're still going to keep this culture, but we're not going to do it to the point of putting us in a struggling way.
Yeah.
What would you advise on, I guess? And
Well, kind of our unique experience is that we have culture and we have church. We have big members of the LDS Church. We rely heavily on the culture of Christ. And I think a big argument there is how we balance both.
Right.
Does one impede the other? Which one should be the top dog, And as members, our viewpoint is, the culture of Christ is actually our first culture, coming from being part of the children of God. Our first culture was the culture of Christ. And, our cultures that we come in aren't necessarily bad. They are fruits of our own choices, and they develop our love for each other and for Jesus Christ. So I would say to the diaspora, to love culture within the means of the culture of Christ. When the traditions that you are in impede on the doctrines and traditions of the gospel, then that's how you know it's kind of stretched past the realistic point. Like you say about debt, the church advises not to go in debt unless it's for, your first home, or sometimes a car. Education.
Necessary things.
Yeah. But not to fall in debt to, fund a funeral.
Yeah.
They probably don't even know who passed away, but they still expect it, right?
Right.
But they don't say not to give anything to your family. You know what I mean? You can support them in the best way that you can, and not just money-wise, time, gifts, other things. So that's why I feel like I personally draw the line is where it impedes on the doctrine of Christ.
Yeah, I like that, period.
Anyway.
So now that we spoke about culture, but what do you think of church? So obviously churches, LDS churches, it's the same everywhere. But how does culture kind of play into church in terms of like church in Australia, New Zealand, but as well as here in America? Because we've experienced all three of them. And so do you think there is a difference between church here, church there, and church there?
I think so.
Yeah.
Firstly, in the singing. I mean, the singing in America is...
Specifically with who? Name and drop.
Name and drop. Besides that, I feel what I've seen is like in New Zealand, we have language wars. And those language wars are intended to stay language wars. But like serving in our mission, I don't know if you knew it before, but I learned that the language wards within our Melbourne mission were called transitionary wards to help teach the Polynesians English so that they can then go into the English wards and they don't have to hold place for languages. And so there's a big difference. And I don't necessarily disagree with either one. But I kind of have like a moral bias because I was born in New Zealand. I like language wards. But I think what kind of the issue is here is like maintaining the same standards for all.
Regardless if it's language or not language.
Yeah. But also like even just within the language wards. Some language wards, the sacrament is all in the language. And then all classes are in English.
Right.
But in some language wards, the sacrament is still in the language, but all the classes are done in the language too. Like the direction is a little bit different. And I don't know whether the bishop, just holds the authority to decide that. But I think that's where kind of issues kind of come about within the future generation.
Yeah.
Because if you have lessons in English, usually the kids will grow up learning the doctrine in English and don't have much of the language, which kind of doesn't serve the purpose of a language ward, which is to learn the gospel in your assigned language.
Yeah.
But then contrasting to the youth that are in language wards that have both sacrament and classes in that language, they end up learning more of the language in terms of the doctrine. And so they uphold the culture a little bit more. This is me in general speaking. They hold up the culture a little bit more because of the initial language respect in church. So that's one facet that I've seen, how they kind of go with each other and compare from here.
Honey, don't say it if you're lying, 'cause I came here to water down your